Stafford keeps, throws, touchdown, Higbee. Stafford end zone pass is caught. Touchdown, Higbee, his second. One batted up and intercepted by Ramsey. A juggle all the way into the end zone and the interception. Backpedaling as he throws, and Kupp has got it. What a catch! Stafford, end zone, Kupp. He's got it for the touchdown.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of East Coast Rams. I'm here with my awesome co-host, Zach Mayer. How is it going?
Well, the week is getting a little better since Sunday's loss. Kind of a somber week. It's been a week where we're all kind of like scratching our heads on what we saw, and it just seemed like it was a tough loss. There's not a whole lot to say of it. We should be celebrating that we were the division champs. The second time that's happened in 5 years under Sean McVay, and we're the fourth seed. But man, that game really, I think it put kind of like I said, it was just made everything down for that night.
Yeah, Zach, that typically with losses I get sad, or you could say depressed. It is only a football game, but really typically with losses that's how I feel. This one made me angry. Jeez, did this one really make me angry, Zach? Like, I really wanted this win probably as much as most playoff wins, right?
Of course.
It's just one of those things where I felt like our margin of error was so high going into the third quarter, and theirs was so minimum. They had to have a perfect game to come back and win, and they did in the second half. And a few small mistakes were just magnified constantly by the 49ers. And it's irritating when Jimmy G turns into Tom Brady, and I watch him in other games and he just can't make like amazing throws, and then he plays against us and just pinpoint accurate in some drives, and it's just aggravating.
I agree. It is aggravating, and I've never seen Jimmy G as being this great quarterback. I mean, he seems more like kind of a fill-in, kind of a couple years. He's in there, kind of waiting for the next person to kind of be the franchise quarterback for them. But they really got their running game, which allowed Garoppolo to not throw as much. Which I think was also kind of a successful game plan. But yeah, it was not a good game. We thought it looked like the start was looking like it was going to be a great game for the Rams fans, but it just turned out to kind of be a complete flip on its head, and not really sure where we were going at after the second half.
Well, the thing is, like, going into the middle of the second quarter, like going into second quarter, you get such a great opportunity to run away with this game, and we end up just stagnating. And I think the game turned near the end of the second quarter, Zach, and we'll go ahead and start breaking down the game and move into our first segment where we start talking about the individual quarters. In general, the Rams get a field goal in their first possession. They dominate on defense in the first and second quarters. They get a really, really good touchdown. Some really nice hands by Tyler Higbee this game, Zach. I think we both can agree that he just played out of his mind.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely in the first half. I mean, he got those first two touchdowns. To me, going in the first quarter, I was actually kind of nervous. We had two back-to-back third and long plays where, we had a Cooper Kupp catch and a OBJ catch. I think it was in the opposite order. But the best thing that we were doing was taking time off the clock. Every team has been doing that to us. We would get on the field, we would be 3 and out, and then they would eat up 6 to 9 minutes of the clock, and then we had to work in this time constrained portion. And I think the Rams definitely did a better job this time in the first two quarters eating up the clock.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
very methodical drives, and I feel like Zach, that's something that when McVay puts his mind to it, he is one of the best at designing methodical drives. But the problem is, well, maybe you disagree with me, Zach, is sometimes I feel like McVay gets greedy with Stafford and he calls a deep shot. And that we've executed on some of them very well, but we've also been bitten in the butt. And against a type of team like 49ers, I don't see why you take a deep shot. This is starting in the third quarter. You take a deep shot when you have a team, if you let them in the game, guess what they're going to do? They're going to run the ball. You got to force them to pass, and Jimmy G will make mistakes. And guess what? He made mistakes when he was throwing. He when he was had to be clutch, he did, but for the most part, in the fourth quarter, he didn't really have to pass much, and that's why we lost the game. We lost the game because we decided to take two deep bombs, and neither of them panned out.
Yeah, yeah, you're talking about the one that was to Ben Skoranek and then the other one to OBJ.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it was. I don't know. Like I said, we had such a good momentum in the first quarter. You had or the first two quarters, especially quarter two when you got, you know, you got the two touchdowns by Higbee. You had the interception by Taylor Rapp to give that second touchdown. They were doing a lot of trickery. Going back to the Higbee, and I'll get to your point in a second. But like going back to the Higbee play, they were doing trickery. They had a 13 personnel. They had they're kind of their jumbo front line where you're looking like this was going to be a run play, and Higbee just kind of comes out to the side, comes behind, and gets like a little top pass and scores a touchdown. We lost that. It seemed like after the first two quarters we just seem to lose our fancy foothold, and we're just doing these deep plays, and when that wasn't necessary, there were other plays available that were safer, that still would have gotten us plenty of yards to convert first down or whatever, to keep moving that ball forward. We don't always have to take these deep shots, and whether that's a McVay thing, because I mean obviously it comes down to Stafford and which read he thinks is best. But, whatever it is, we need him to realize maybe we shouldn't look at the deep throw as the first option anymore. Like we need to move on and kind of find a better play so that we don't hit these interceptions every time.
Well, let me start off with saying, at least in my opinion, Stafford didn't lose us this game, but he didn't win it for us. And I looked at those interceptions a few times, a good amount of times, and they were both relatively open. The Ben Skoranek one, which on live TV I thought it wasn't open at all, but no, he was behind both defenders. As long as instead of throwing the fade, they throw the post. If
Mhm.
Stafford throws more of the post on the very edge of the left side of the you know, out of bounds. If he throws it right there on the white line and lets Skoranek catch it, it's a 40-yard pass.
Mhm.
But he doesn't do that. He underthrows it somewhat, and this is a recurring theme with Stafford. He has the arm, but sometimes he miss. I don't know if he's misjudging the throw. I don't know if he just doesn't have, like, I think he has the arm to make the distance. He just doesn't get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah, and
Uh
I'm kind of concerned. Like it seems like he hasn't had that problem with Van Jefferson or Cooper Cup, but it is I would say the newer players. It's OBJ and even Ben Skoranek, who's wide receiver 4. It's those two players that he seems to be missing more down the stretch.
he
Um,
probably doesn't trust them.
it could be. I mean, it also could be that he doesn't. Yes, they've been practicing for probably 8 weeks now with OBJ, but like OBJ still has the speed. Like they needed someone with the speed, and Van Jefferson was kind of going to be playing that role on top of and now OBJ. But like maybe he doesn't realize how quickly he's going to get to that route. I don't know. These are plays that need to be corrected and they need to be fixed.
Well, I can live with one in a game, right? Like one is understandable. You're gonna take shots sometimes down field. But if you're gonna do that, like after you do one, you got to be careful on the second one,
Well,
and you don't want to make the same mistake twice. And he did. Both of them were underthrown. Which surprised me about the Ben Skoranek one. I didn't expect Ben Skoranek to be able to run past the safety,
mhm.
like he did, and he had a little bit of distance there. And if it's just right in the breadbasket on the sideline, he gets a good gain. And with the OBJ one in overtime, the one that makes me mad about that is again, OBJ would have been it would have been really close, closer than the Skoranek one. He could have possibly caught it if it was again like a post, or if he does a fade just perfectly. It would have been a really hard catch and throw.
Mhm.
But the thing that really makes me angry about it is if you go and look in middle of the field, Cooper Cup is relatively open for NFL standards, and he probably gets 20 to 40 yards depending on his rack.
For sure. And you were talking about the Ben Skoranek one, correct? The
Uh,
or
Cooper
OBJ.
Cup was open on the OBJ, the
OBJ.
second one, in
OBJ.
overtime.
So is Michelle. Sony Michelle is open for the short route, but he still would have got the first down. So both those players were open, and so it was just I don't know. It was just one of those things where I wasn't super happy.
I
And realistically, we should have only had one interception. Like it should never have even gotten to the overtime, and we can kind of break that down too if we want. There is no reason we should have been in that position to begin with. I mean, we were
well, I
leading
mean,
17-0. I get the defense is kind of getting their rhythm back or losing a little bit of rhythm, and they scored a couple touchdowns. Not a big deal, but man, that last 2 minutes, I was mad. I was mad at our defense. I was mad at our offense. I was mad at Sean McVay for calling 3 run plays in a row when it hasn't been working all night. Um, if I was
yeah,
mad, that's where I was mad at.
Yeah, I mean, like, he should have called play action on second or third down. Like, at least try it. And guess what? Tell your QB, tell Stafford, take a play action. And if nothing is open, just take a sack or go down and just fall down on the ball. Because guess what? It does the same effect. It doesn't matter the Johnny Hecker at that point. You're trying to waste time, or a timeout.
Yeah,
But if there's something open, you take the first down.
have
And
have Sony Michelle stay in the back and toss it to him and run backwards out of bounds. Something to keep the clock running, or like you said, or just take the sack and let them have their one timeout if necessary.
Yeah, there's so many things that I mean the 49ers did get a few lucky breaks. The fact that that pass by Debo Samuel was bobbled and it perfectly went back into his hands, that's just luck. Like he caught it, which is good. He caught his own bobble, but if that just tips like half an inch any other direction, he drops the pass.
For sure.
Um it's just one of those things where they get a few lucky breaks. They win 2 coin tosses. I just feel like when we get unlucky breaks with the Niners, we have to be perfect for the whole game.
Yeah.
And in order to beat that team, we're going to have to be perfect. If we play them in the playoffs, which is possible, if both them and the Eagles win and we win, we would be playing the 49ers, which would be nuts at home. So the crazy thing is the Rams could theoretically play at home the entire playoff structure, but that would require playing the 49ers and then playing the Eagles after that, which would be nuts.
That would be definitely a topsy turvy playoff scenario for the NFC for sure. I mean, that's um, taking out the Bucks and Dallas and Green Bay.
Yeah, yeah. That would be the Eagles beating
The Bucks, right?
the Bucks and then beating Green Bay at Green Bay.
Yeah. Wow, man. I don't know if that seems really hard to do these days.
Yeah, but either way, going back to this game, it was like I said, it made me angry. We shouldn't have gone to overtime, and in overtime, I kind of knew we were gonna lose this game the second it went into overtime, and we didn't get the ball.
Right.
Um, I mean, congratulations to the defense for getting a stop. They did their part in overtime. That's really all you can ask. Especially the way the 49ers were kind of running over them all of the fourth quarter. I give them credit for getting that stop. The offense just has to take what is given. And I feel like Stafford needs to get better at that. I feel like we went from last year, Zach, going to a QB that all they did was take checkdowns and short passes to now all like we just moved the pendulum all the way over to the other extreme. And Stafford is a little bit too willing to take the shot when he should just do the check down.
Yeah, and I'm not. Again, I think we both said that this wasn't really Matthew Stafford's fault of a game. Number one, I truly believe we should have only had one interception. He did have two, granted, but the O line did nothing to help him at all. He was constantly under pressure, constantly having people come from all sides, up the middle, on the sides. They were just blowing right through the offensive line when most of the time it was just 4-on-5, and they just kept coming right in and kept pressuring them. And um, so our O line has to play better. That's just has to play better going forward. We had no injuries. Everyone was healthy. There was no excuse for not giving Matthew Stafford enough time.
Well, granted, Brian Allen did play pretty badly this game, but like look at how the 49ers were able to adapt with with their O-line having injuries and our D-line really good, really causing issues. But that's why I like Shanahan, the way he play calls more than McVay. I feel like McVay is a better play designer, but Shanahan is better at play calling because he realizes when his line's having trouble, he knows how to dictate the defense. Like with his stretches, with his jet sweeps, with the quick passes designed to cause the defense to kind of go horizontally instead of trying to rush up the middle. And we just invite those rushes when we just do so many dropbacks. I get the run wasn't working. I understand that from Sean McVay's point of view. So do something that supplements the run. Do some screens. I think we had a Higby screen that was really good, and we only did that once.
And we had one Cooper Cup kind of jet sweep around, which gave 18 yards, and we didn't go back to that at all. We've kind of left since Robert Woods, kind of got his injury. We've kind of left the jet sweep out. Van Jefferson has had a couple which really weren't successful. We haven't. Cooper Cup's done some that have been successful. Some of them maybe 2 or 3 yards, but this one he had one in this game that was 18 yards. And we've kind of lost that. If we can't have Sony Michel go up the middle and get us 5, 6, 7 yards, it seems like we just collapse. And like that's all we do. We either throw the ball or we push it up the middle, and we don't try to go out. And that's why this 49ers were so successful. And as you mentioned, they had their offense, instead of trying to go up the middle or just off to the side, they were just tossing the ball. They were tossing it out so Debo could go, wide right or wide left, or Mitchell, same thing. And then so they were just opening up more and more plays. At one point, they had like 8 running plays in a row, 8 or 10 running plays in a row, and that's crazy. And that's why they were successful, because Garoppolo didn't have to throw as much in the second quarter or second half.
hmm Yeah, and I just think it's very, very aggravating when like something clearly hasn't worked and like McVay tries to force a square peg in a round hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he kept on calling these plays where Sony Michel, it would be a quick out to Sony Michel, and he was just dropping them.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I've said over the last couple of games, he's not like he is I trust him with that ball, rushing that ball over and over and over again. I still have yet to really trust him as being a pass receiver. He should just we should not be dropping empty with him on the field. He should stay and protect, as we've saw last night or on Sunday. He needs to stay back with Stafford and just protect Stafford if need be, or run off to the side if he's not getting that pressure, like he doesn't need to be there. Run off to the side so that we can at least get a few yards if we need to. But he doesn't need to be a mid to deep or middle threat. In my opinion, he hasn't been that reliable as far as the receiving goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's go ahead and move on to quarter two, where we talk specifically about the offense. Zach, Stafford had a solid day, 238 yards, 3 TDs, and 2 interceptions. Um, I mean, all I'll say about this is it's not necessarily on him. He had two really bad deep bombs. But besides that, I thought he played solid enough that we should have won this game with how he played. And in comparison to how Jimmy G played, like they shouldn't have won with how he was playing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the first quarter, Matthew Stafford left the first quarter with 2 touchdowns, was 15 for 16, no interceptions at that point, um, and it's like, oh man, we're getting the Stafford, we're getting the Stafford from the Cardinals game. We're getting the Stafford that we've been waiting for, and we knew that he was. Like we know he's a good quarterback. We know he can throw the ball. We know he can handle the ball well. And then just something happened on the other end, and whether our defense couldn't hold the line, they broke more than they were just bent. And our offense just couldn't get more of a rhythm going. They had a really nice play when it was 17-17, getting the ball down the field, chewing up that clock, and things like that. But, again, once they kind of stagnant a little bit, they couldn't just keep that momentum. And it was partially because they couldn't get the running game going.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where McVay got so conservative, and when the running game clearly isn't working, he wasn't like. I feel like if we were down starting going into the second half, we win this game because McVay held back until the 49ers tied, and you instantly saw him change how he was play calling the game. It's like, I get you want this win a lot, but if you play he was playing not to lose instead of to win. And when you play a call like that, I feel like McVay he plays into the hands of his opponents. It's like your run game, at least in the context of this game, you haven't been able to run the ball at all. Then it's like when we have games where we're averaging like 6 yards a carry, 8 yards a carry, he refuses to run the ball. But in this game, he decided to continually try to run the ball for a yard or two and just punt away back to a 49ers team that's clearly wearing out our defense.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Our offense just didn't. It has its moments, like you said. The first half looks great. It looks like we are a Super Bowl contending team. Second half looks like we don't know what we're doing, and that's just so frustrating about like the end of the game. You leave this game and you're like, we're the division champs. We're in the playoffs in the 4th seed. Our record is 12-5, and yet we still feel like we lost everything in this game. We got a ways to get back, and we can continue down the road. Let's get some upbeats a little bit. We had Higbee. He had his 6 yards, 55 yards, 6 receptions, 55 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Kupp, 7 receptions, 118 yards, 1 touchdown. Like I said earlier, he carried the ball and had 18 yards.
He wins the Triple Crown.
Yep, he got the Triple Crown. He didn't break, the records, but
4th all time.
Well,
right?
Correct. Yeah, 4th all time, but he didn't break, the single reception yard or the single receptions or the total yards, but still winning the Triple Crown, 4th person ever to do it. It's a great accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cooper Cup. If you win the Triple Crown, only 4 people have ever done that. Ever. Just that's all, and it includes Cup. So that's an impressive accomplishment. I really feel like at minimum he's probably gonna end up winning Offensive Player of the Year, and I hope he does. He deserves it. He's worked his tail off. I mean, for you coming into the season, no one predicted he would be a Triple Crown winner. And I know Rams fans have always had a soft spot in their heart. I always have had for Cup. I've just loved him since the day we drafted him. And man, what a pick. What a pick in the third round to get a Triple Crown winner.
Yeah, he's a special player, and we all felt for him when we were on the Super Bowl run and he was out with his injury. And again, I've said this on the podcast many times, but he if he was on the field, I have no doubt we would have been either way more competitive, or we would have won that game. Like, he's that special player who's it was always third and cup. Especially with Goff on the field, he was always third and cup. It was almost a go-to that he would be the person to go to on third down. I'm just disappointed that I can't find an autographed, hardly any autographed of Cooper Kupp left on the internet. It seems they're just all gone, and I'm really disappointed in it.
Yeah, people are buying it up to resell.
Yeah, and
That's
I just assume now that he's Triple Crown winner that anything they add to whatever Fanatics or whatever that they're going to jack up those prices now significantly now that he's Triple Crown winner, because they can.
hey, he's earned the bag,
He does.
as I like to say, and all
He better
all
get a
well
lot of
to
those
him.
profits.
Yeah, and then a not so great stat line by Sony Michel: 21 carries, 43 yards. Um, they're loading up to stop the run, and really, we got a lot of our success when we had quick to intermediate developing routes. That's If you looked at our passing chart, it was like medium routes or quick routes were our bread and butter in this game, and if we would have stuck to that more, probably would have won.
For sure, for sure. We kind of mentioned that, like, that's where they seem to really be picking it up. In the first two drives, in the first drive that they did, they got hit with a 3rd and 7, got it to Coop or OBJ, whichever one, and then did it again on another 3rd and long. And it was in the middle of the field, only gaining maybe like 12 to 15 yards, but that's a good number just to keep knocking those 15 yards, and you'll make it down the field in no time. So
Mhm.
definitely need to work on it. But do you want to talk about who we got back this week?
Yeah, Cam Makers, but let's be honest, he did not look 100%. Um, I'm happy he played. That's a great thing. I love Cam Akers. I hope he recovers. He just doesn't look viable right now.
I don't disagree. I don't think he was 100%. Number one, it was a defense that was stopping the run in a way that, do you really want to, put your, potential, running back for the future, especially when he's just recovering from an Achilles injury. I always thought he wasn't going to be used for a lot. I thought he was going to be used very minimally, just to kind of get him back into the game, and I think that's where we got him. I think he's going to have a bigger role coming into this game, because this game is now make or break. If you don't win, you're done, and they need to have all weapons ready to go. We can't play this conservative game anymore. We have to push the envelope, and I think Cam Akers can be ready. They just need to put him in the opportunity to make the play. So that's my thought.
Mm-hmm. All right, Zach, let's go ahead and break down some Rams news. And there was quite a bit in the last few days as
Shocking
we.
news. Shocking news.
Yeah, shocking. And as as I as we record on a Thursday night, we got a very, very interesting cryptic tweet. What was it? Tuesday night from one Jalen Ramsey, and the Twitter was buzzing, Zach. And when I saw it, I didn't really know where he was going with it, because I did not want Antonio Brown, and I didn't think it would be him at all. So I was like, I don't know who else could be relatively out there. And it turns out the Rams signed Eric Weddle, the same Weddle from 2019. And I'll listen to your thoughts about it, Zach. Clearly, I am not very high on this news at all.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when he was on the Rams team, a couple seasons ago when they brought in Weddle and they brought in Clay Matthews and stuff like that, it was like, all right, I think we're trying to bring an all-star team together, but it didn't feel like an all-star team. And that's also around the same time in 2019 when we got Ramsey and things like that. Now we feel like we have an all-star team when we bring in Von Miller, and OBJ and all these things, and Matthew Stafford. It feels like we really have that all-star team. But now bringing in Weddle, I have this mixed emotion because I actually like Weddle. I think he was a really good safety when he was with the Ravens, but again, he was getting up there in the age, and that is always a concern. I mean, we have Whitworth, and we love Whitworth, and he's the oldest offensive lineman or left tackle, and so it's. I'm not. I think he's going to do well, and apparently he's kept up his fitness and his toughness and things like that. So I'm really interested to see. Um, I am shocked that they're bringing him in, but at the same time, when you kind of think about it, you're like, okay, we need to bring someone who we can onboard quickly, and so who is out there? And they're probably looking at and we'll talk about, we still got to talk about the two injuries because we have two safeties, which is the reason why they brought him into this. Why? So I think they wanted someone who knew the Rams system. They knew most of the players. I know, when Weddle was playing, we were under Wade Phillips kind of defensive mind. And we're kind of two defensive coordinators away from that. But having someone who knows most of the defenders, at least knows Ramsey, he knows Aaron Donald. He has the players, and a lot of that defense still is the same because it has those players. But I think they wanted someone who had a veteran. They reached out and said, "Hey, are you physically capable?" Not to go on a rant and me keep talking about this, but I think Raheem Morris actually reached out to him and said, "You're not fat, are you?" Like I can't remember the direct quote, but basically it was like, "You're still in shape, right? You're not fat, you're in shape, right?" And so yeah, I think this is a move that they thought this was a safe move that they could bring in a veteran safety to kind of help. Terrell Burgess, and who's our other who's our other fourth safety?
Nick Scott.
Nick Scott, to help them out, as well as being able to be a rotation if they need to. So they signed him to the practice squad.
Yeah, definitely Nick Scott needs help. Oh gosh.
For sure.
Yeah, I'll say this about him. For depth, I think it's fine. I don't want him starting even over Nick Scott. Like he just got roasted so much. Like I don't know what else to say. He had a few good games. He was a great tackler, but the problem is that he just got beat over top so much in 2019. It drove me nuts because like anytime a team needed a big play, they would just go to their fastest wide receiver and just have someone have an underneath route or medium route, pull him down a little bit, and he would just get just completely beat when he was playing with us. Like I actually really liked the way Clay Matthews was playing when we signed him, at least until his injury. Eric Weddle, to me, just never really lived up to that billing. Even as an older player, he just wasn't playing that smart when he was with the Rams. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he gets like 2 or 3 pick sixes in the middle of the playoffs. I will eat my words now. I just don't.
Do you think that bringing him in, and if he does play, like I said, I think he will definitely for this first game, he's going to be limited reps. And so, because we are limited in reps. So do you think that he could be helpful in the sense that, maybe in what you're saying, like it's hard for him to cover a receiver because, but maybe he could help come forward when there is a running play to kind of stop the runner before he gets to being able to be a better tackler than some of the safeties that we have. Because, in the prior weeks, throughout this whole season, Rapp has made plays. He's caught several interceptions. He's been able to break up plays, but when it comes to a short pass to
A
a
box
receiver,
safety.
yeah, box safety, somebody who can like put their shoulder in and stop them from continuing to gain yards. Do you think that that's a position that Weddle could be useful in?
I mean, if you want to use him as like a star almost, but keep him on the inside and use him purely as kind of like a box safety, kind of like how I think we should have been using Rap all along. I don't think he should be a full safety or strong safety. That's just not a strong suit. He gets beat. Really, like they're very similar. At least older Weddle and like Rap now. So I do feel like he could fill in if they choose to do that. I'm just really afraid of like if Nick Scott gets hurt and we have him as like strong safety. Oh, that's
So apparently,
that would not be good.
yeah. So today was his first practice with the team. Um, And so there was kind of a miscommunication what was happening. Some people saying that he was acting as um, the signal caller for the defense because they were saying like he was. Um, I'm trying to go through some stuff that he was going to be the signal caller to replace Fuller. But what they were referring to was the checks and calls that every defensive player is making. Like he was able to read those and didn't make any errors when going through today's walkthrough, which is something I think you want. You want someone who is able to analyze what's going on. To be able to know what the players are doing, so it's really good. At least that at least for his first day, he's able to see what the defense has, and he's not making any mental errors. At least that people are noticing when it comes to the defensive plays that are being called.
Yeah, I just don't know if I want a player who's been out of the NFL for 2 years on the field during a big playoff moment. On top of that, being someone who the last time he was on the field, it wasn't like he had a great, fantastic year. He was walking off in glory. He had 10 interceptions on the year, like 50 plus pass breakups. No, he was pretty mediocre with the Rams, and him being mediocre with the Rams mixed with being off for 2 years. Like I'm just, uh, I hope it works out.
I do too. Kind of So the reason again, let's kind of go through the reason why Eric Weddle's coming to the team. Jordan Fuller, he had an ankle injury in the third quarter, which I think is another reason why our defense wasn't playing, its best work. And then Taylor Rapp is currently under concussion protocol. It is still TBD on if he will play on Monday, but at least we have the extra day. So maybe he'll at least be out there so that we do have so that we at least have Rapp and Burgess and then Scott
I'm
and Weddle.
semi confident if we have Rap and Burgess. Like I really really like Burgess. I don't know why he hasn't gotten the playing time that I feel like, because didn't Burgess start the first 3 or 4 games of 2020 and he was like lights out until his injury.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think just because Jordan Fuller has been, I mean, he's been excellent too. And then Taylor Rapp, I don't know if they just feel like he's the more veteran player, even though I think this is year 3 for him. And so they're giving it to him. I'm not really sure how that all plays out, but no, I agree. I think Terrell Burgess is going to do a great job filling that role. But whoever the next problem is who's going to be their signal caller. If Taylor Rapp can't play, I know
Probably Ramsey.
I know Ramsey was playing it, but there's a reason why sometimes why cornerbacks don't, is because you got to remember he may come back and start playing the star role, which I think God help us that he does that. But if he's on the one side, like on the one side of the field, it's really hard for him to help signal calls to the other side of the field, or even to the middle of the field. So I don't know. I have faith in him that he is capable of being the signal caller. It just depends on where they put him and is if he's still able to communicate with the rest of the team if he has to slide to the end to cover, wide receiver one. Um, that's just my concern, I think, for it.
Hmm. And moving on from that, the NFL All Pro team came out, or NFL.com. It's one of their analysts, pro team, and Ramsey, of course, is not on it. Zach, people are just stupid. If you don't see Ramsey as a top two cornerback, if not the best cornerback, just because he doesn't get picks.
I want to look at. I saw the list, and so I know Cooper Kupp is on it on the offense, and Aaron Donald's on the defense. I'm kind of just wondering, like, and I would have to relook at that list, but maybe they just didn't want it to be Rams heavy. Like, I don't know, but that's like the only thing I can think of is like they just didn't want it to be Rams heavy.
They put on the Cowboy safety or DB, who of course gets like a interception a game, but also gets burnt for like 170 yards a game. It's like
It's all of these things, like PFF also, and I didn't even put this in our rundown, but PFF also just put out that that Aaron Donald is their defensive player of the year again, and that's 7 years now, I think.
yeah, because PFF, I don't hold it as the Bible. I feel like some of their metrics are a little weird, but he should be the defensive player of the year for the last 4 years.
It's not
And
a. I mean, there's
it's not homerish at all, because I can look at Cooper Cup and not say he's the best wide receiver of all time. I can look at Matthew Stafford and be like, yeah, he didn't deserve to be in the Pro Bowl. Like after a certain amount of weeks, I think he kind of deserved to be over Kyler Murray. But in general, like I can see how they put Kyler Murray in, but completely, I don't get how people don't understand that for a defensive tackle, what Donald has done this year and every year since he's been in the league is so unprecedented, so much higher than his peers in his position, that it is historic. It
yeah.
is historic.
When it comes to the the whatever the AP defensive player of the year, or what the whatever the main recognition from the NFL is they look at, it's a lot of times a popularity contest. And yes, Aaron Donald has won it multiple times and it's well deserved, but a lot of times it is popularity contest. But when you look at even with the PFF, again, not to hold it up to the highest standard, but they grade things so much differently. And I don't know all the specifics of their grading system, but statistics that I want to see is how many times is another defender double or triple teamed. How many, and it's just also the number of pressures that he puts. How many tackles for loss does he bring out? Again, also sacks, all those things. And again, Aaron Donald has all of these things, and as a combined unit, he is a threat on every team. Against every team. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm biased, obviously, but
Well, I mean, like a few weeks ago, someone created a graph of all the edge defenders, and they showed their double team rate and their pass rush rate, win rate. So you had the double team, how much they were getting double teamed, correlating with how often they win their actual pass rushes. And guess what? They all in this nice graph, and you see all these edge rushers. You see a really good TJ Watt. You see a lot of people in top right, Nick Bosa being in top right, and then they need and someone added Aaron Donald to that, and they need an entire completely entire other chart, and even on that chart, he was in the top right.
Mhm.
So that is how often he gets doubled and triple teamed, and he still has the highest pass rush win rate. Like, it's just bonkers. It's bonkers. He would have if he had constantly, I guarantee you, Zach, 1-on-1s every snap. He would definitely break 40 sacks a year. I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, I mean he would be breaking the record of total number of sacks out there. it would be no question. It would be no question.
Yeah. So I mean, congratulations, T.J. Watt for what he tied the sack record. He'll probably end up winning it because of that. But AD, like we know, we watch him every game, and other regular NFL fans may not see it like we do, but it's almost watching a highlight reel, someone else's career highlight reel, just watching one game of Aaron Donald. And we will almost never see a player as dominant in his position as him ever again on our
And
team.
and for the
Yeah.
consistency year in, year out. For PFF, this is 6 years in a row that they've deemed him by their stats defensive player of the year. 6 years in a row with above a 90. The lowest was a 92 point something was the lowest. Like it's crazy. I mean, he is the GOAT as far as defense goes, if not a GOAT for the entire NFL. So we did get a lot of positive news out. We're getting positive news out after this big this, the game previous. So I'm glad
Hmm.
we're getting that out.
Yep. Talking about positive news, let's move on some defensive highlights. Biggest positive of the game was I want to say the most impressive interception I've seen the last 4 years of watching Rams football. Outside of that interception by Dante Dion that didn't count, that he was like a hair away from making.
Mm-hmm.
That interception would have been better. But the Jalen Ramsey interception in this game, Zach, was so phenomenal. Such a hard play. Almost any other cornerback can't make that catch.
And that was, I believe, either the
It was the
first or
first one,
the
I
first
believe.
one when he got the signal caller.
Oh, actually, no, no, no. So the rap one was the first one. The rap one was the errant, like
No,
Jimmy G
no,
throw.
no. Sorry, I meant when he became signal caller. I think it was his first or second play after he became signal caller
Mm-hmm.
that he got that interception.
Yeah.
And oh my god, he tipped it. Basically, he tipped it to himself. Was kind of the ending of that. He tipped the ball and then kind of like was like juggling to try to hold on to it because he had to go backwards to get it.
Yeah.
Super impressive.
Mm-hmm. Rap had, I mean, it was an interception. He didn't drop it. Do you remember that dropped interception Rap had like last year? I think it was in Tampa Bay. Like he got thrown it in his face mask
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he
I do
just
remember that.
dropped it. I don't remember what game, but I'm happy he caught it. He should catch those. It was a bad throw by
I
Jimmy
think
G.
this was his fourth interception of the year, which is pretty good. And as much as we dig on Rap, I mean, he's had four interceptions. I mean, two of them I believe were like you know
Duds.
I mean they were like easy interceptions, but I think the one with the Colts, that one was a good one. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there was one a couple weeks ago too that he had a pretty decent one. So I'm gonna give Rap some credit, especially since he's concussion protocol. We're gonna give him a little bit of a
Mm-hmm.
edge there.
Uh,
um
Von Miller makes a great play to get a sack, and what I both me and you really thought ended the game. We thought they weren't going to be able to drive down with a minute 30 and be able to get a touchdown at least.
yeah, I
Because
mean,
we have great red zone defense typically, like just fantastic red zone defense, and they just completely sliced us and diced us. And I will say I think it was a mistake for McVay not to call a timeout after they got that bomb on us, that 30-yard bomb. I
mhm.
think it was the Debo. Uh, it's a you let them run up, you let them waste clock, yes, but the second they're about to snap, you need to call a timeout and let your defense kind of catch your breath in that situation. Because
Especially with Leonard Floyd, because he didn't even like they got dinked for that. They got another 5 or 10 yards because he was offsides, which I think that was a bogus call. I actually thought he made it over the line beforehand.
well, yeah, he you just got to be more cognizant of being there in time. But either way, like McVay should have called a timeout. I don't get why coaches like there's nothing beneficial for you saving your timeouts in that point in time, and you let them run up to line and waste clock, but you need to call timeout, especially when it looks like your defense just got gashed because you know what's going to happen next. They're going to just get another one right over the middle in that type of situation. Um, and you don't waste time by just getting a timeout. You make the offense double think what they're doing, and you give defense time to get a breather. So that's just something I hope we fix on, and we
Yeah.
don't go home because of it.
Yeah, I mean our defense, I give them probably a B, maybe even a B minus. I mean, they did get they got 3 sacks, the Von Miller sack, Reeder had a sack, Ashawn Robinson had a sack, which was great. But I think the biggest thing that was a detriment on the defensive side in the second half was the 13 missed tackles. They got to clean that up. They need to, and that's why I kind of was asking you about Weddle and if he would be good for, they just seemed like they were just pushing through defender after defender, getting those first downs, and it just was irritating me that they just couldn't finish a tackle.
Yeah, there's a few plays where like they went for like 13, 15 yards where they would only went for 4 or 5 if the first contact makes the tackle. I know not every person can make the first tackle, but you got to be physical. You got to fight them down, and that's why we lose these 49ers games. They just come in and they want to punch us in the nose, and we just don't ever respond. This game, I'll give our team credit. The first half, they responded. They remembered all that like grief they've gotten, and apparently people were like talking crap to one of I think a 49ers wide receiver, saying that they like switched over the rivalry, that they're going to stop dominating them now. You can't start talking trash and then just get stomped on in the second half and lose an OT.
Yep, for sure.
You got to finish it and then you can talk trash, but like this is why the 49ers team doesn't respect us. Anytime they play us, they're more physical, and they win the game.
Yeah, and so to kind of conclude this before we talk about the next game preview, the one thing that I think I was the most disappointed about as soon as I started the game was the number of red in that building. Like
Uh,
when we were at the Coliseum, I was annoyed because the seats were red, so it just made it look like more of a red stadium, especially when the 49ers were there. But this is SoFi Stadium. This is the Rams stadium, and it was just bleeding, purely just bleeding. And I was annoyed at that point. It calmed me down at 17-0, but then it shot right back up again towards the end of the game.
yeah, Kelly Stafford had a good point on her podcast. She said that Jimmy G was on a verbal count and Stafford was on a silent count. And for people who don't understand, that means the 49ers they were acting like they were playing at home, and this was like a road game for us in
Yeah.
our own stadium. It's just sad. It's
That,
just sad.
and so going into this week, this is our, could be, maybe not, but probably our last home game, even going through the playoffs, depending on how things go. And so that's the other concern this week and I think, Stafford's wife also said, please, Rams fans, don't sell your tickets to Arizona fans. But at the same time, Cardinals have been playing way better away than they have been at home. So you want to start diving into next game?
Sure.
So the Rams Cardinals will play Monday night at 8:15. So Monday Night Football. Slightly annoying that's not on the weekend, but we'll make do. So the Rams 12-5, Cardinals 11-1. They each won a game at each other's stadium. The Rams are 5-3 at home. The Cardinals are 8-1 on away, but they are coming off not a great winning streak over the last 6 or 7 weeks.
Only 1 of 5.
Yeah, 1-5 and that was since the Rams game.
And that's a like a sneak, like very very close win against the Cowboys.
So it's going to be a tough game. Any way you see it, Kyle Murray's a threat. Whether he's a throwing down the field threat, running threat. Um, they have so many weapons on the field. It's just I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm kind of concerned for us, especially in our safety position, because we could possibly have one or two safeties out. So I'm worried about them attacking kind of the middle of the field. And if they tie up Cooper Cup, if they get to where they were the first game, where they it was Cup's only game in the regular season where he didn't have 90 plus yards. That could be detriment to us.
Yeah, I mean, so Hopkins is out, which definitely helps out. Really, if we get Ramsey the Shadow Green, and then you just put a linebacker and cornerback on Zach Ertz, and you make the other guys just beat you one on one, I feel like that's a plan, a recipe for success against them on offense. And you just have our front or defensive line don't exactly pass rush heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have the pocket enclosed. And we did a great job of this the second game, and you make Kyler Murray beat you with his arm.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Just to give some stats to those who are out listening, Kyle Murray, he's had 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Most of those interceptions actually I think came from home, which is it's also a weird stat. Matt Stafford has 41 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. Their leading rusher is James Conner with 202 carries, 752 yards, 15 touchdowns. And then Kirk with 77 receptions, 982 yards, and 5 touchdowns, which is way below Cooper Cup with his 146 receptions, 1,947 yards, and 16 touchdowns. Our triple crown winner.
hmm Yeah, I believe that Cooper Cup has more yards than top three Saints wide receivers.
He
I
he
That's
has
just
more
a
than
weird
most.
stat.
He has more than like 4 or 5 teams receivers combined. Like each one of those teams combined. Like he is. It's unreal the number of yards he has. Um, so for the Rams to win, what do they need to focus on?
Against this Cardinals team, I think the big thing is being able to run. And this is a game that you want to run in, because I feel like we'll be able to outgain them by a good amount. You want to keep the ball out of Kyler Murray's hands, and when it's in his hands, you want to make them throw. And you want to eliminate AJ Green and make him have to throw to his second and third, make Kirk beat you, make Rondell Moore beat you. And if we can do that, I believe this should be a comfortable win by like a touchdown. I don't know if you want to call that comfortable, but we should be able to win this game. The Cardinals aren't a bad team, but I feel like their problem is that they just don't play defense as elite as they were in the first 6 weeks, and that's just been them in the butt.
So with the possibility of JJ Watt coming back, do you think we're going to have any issues? You know, for them coming at our offensive line and making those run plays.
No, I actually think that helps, because I think that makes Sean McVay less likely to call like deep or long developing passing routes. And really that bit us in the butt our first match. It was those long bombs we were trying to do that just got intercepted, that took the momentum completely out. When it's like medium routes and just running the ball like we did in the second meeting for the most part, it worked wonders. And then you call a deep bomb later in the game, whenever they're trying to stop the run completely. You don't want to come out trying to do that. So just got to play it like we did the second time, and I feel like we will.
Yeah, I mean, this is a banged up Arizona Cardinals. Again, other than our two safeties that we've already talked about plenty of times, the Rams seem to be pretty healthy. On the Arizona side of things, there are three running backs, Jonathan Ward, Chase Edmonds, and James Conner. They're all still technically considered questionable. Um, Ward with a knee injury who didn't practice today as of Thursday. Chase Edmonds was practiced, but in a very limited fashion. And then even James Conner was held on Thursday's practice. So again, they have a whole other number of players who are either injured or questionable right now. But um, if the Rams just keep pushing, they don't outplay themselves. I love seeing the deep balls. I think every fan loves to see a deep ball going 40, 50 yards and, the receiver catching it. We just need to make sure we make those plays and we throw it deep. And we make it so that it's not going to get intercepted. If we can really limit the turnovers, it's going to be a win. And I think our offensive line needs to be played better than they did before. Because again, I don't think Matthew Stafford had a bad game. I think he was just put too much was being pressured on him because the offensive line just didn't always seem to be what they have been the previous game. So I have full confidence in Matthew Stafford. I want him to win this game. This would give him his first playoff win. We have the team. We have the all-star power. If there was a dream team, this is as close as I think the NFL is going to get. We may be able to consider the Bucks, who won the Super Bowl last year. They had a pretty good dream team too, but this team feels like it's a special team. It is a team of one. We have all these players, and we've talked about this weeks and weeks and weeks, that were considered toxic, and they aren't toxic. This is a family who really wants to see themselves play better than they are.
Yeah, and if we can start to get hot now, if Stafford can shut up all the stupid analysts and show them that he can be clutch in these big games, I feel like we can go far in the playoffs. But he has to show that, and he hasn't shown that yet, besides one or two games this season. And we'll see if he can. We really will.
Yeah, I don't need him to be a fourth quarter quarterback. I don't need him to throw 2-3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. I mean, obviously, if we're way behind, yes, I need him to do that. But keep the game in front of you. Manage the game. Watch the clock. Get the ball down the field. Let's stop running the ball 3 times in a row if it's not getting us anywhere. Manage your clock, manage your opportunity, stop playing so conservative. I don't want the offense to be playing like they're playing defense.
Yeah.
So
It'll be interesting, and if we win, Sean McVay will he would have just proven like what a great hire it was for them to get him. What was it? 4 years ago yesterday? Just
5 years ago. Sean McVay?
yeah.
Yeah, I think this is 5 years ago today.
Yeah, great hire, and we'll see if we win. We'll be 500 no matter what in the playoffs still. I hope that's not another Falcons game. Jeez. Well, we're gonna have a fun pod next week if that's the case. I just want to thank everyone for listening. If you guys want to send any questions and feedback to feedback@eastcoastrams.com or hit us up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is ramfanashton1 and at Zach Mayer. Hit my guy up. Zach, any other thoughts?
No, I'm ready. I'm ready for the playoffs. I'm ready for us to get all the way to the Super Bowl. So hopefully we can, come back on the pod next week and, do some celebrations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Zach, that historic Super Bowl run, it starts Monday, and we're going to remember this pod, and we're going to remember this run, and they will keep us recording weekly up till this first weekend of February.
Yeah, I think we're 1 month away, 30 days away, something like that from the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Hope everyone has a great weekend.
Yep.
And
Have
go
a good one.
Rams.
Go Rams.